My name is Sarah, and on the night of my birthday dinner inside the sparkling heart of Seattle's Glasshaven restaurant, my sister Chloe rose to her feet, placed a hand on her barely there bump, and declared she was pregnant with my husband Ryan's child. The room tilted. The clink of glassware blurred into a low, thundering hum as every head turned toward me, silently bracing for my meltdown. They expected tears, shouts, maybe even a plate shattering against the floor. Instead, Chloe flashed a smug grin sharp enough to slice glass, and Ryan, standing faithfully at her side, had the audacity to look at me with pity, as though this betrayal was my. But I didn't wail or rage. Instead, I stayed seated, fingertips circling the rim of my wine glass, letting the silence swell until it pressed heavy on every corner of the room. They thought they'd scripted my downfall. What they didn't know was that the pen had always been in my hand. Growing up packed into a narrow duplex in Seattle, I was the one holding everything together. Chloe, younger by 2 years, floated easily from moment to moment, the golden child draped in praise. I, on the other hand, balanced the bills when our parents forgot the electric company, while she twirled her way to applause, new dresses, and endless attention. My reward was responsibility. "You're so dependable, Sarah," they would say, as though it were praise, though it always felt more like chains. Still, I didn't resent her. Not deeply. I loved Chloe, even when her glow dimmed mine. I assumed that was simply family balance. One of us steady, the other radiant. When Ryan entered my life, I thought I'd finally claim my own radiance. He was a financial consultant with easy charm, grand promises, and eyes that convinced you were the only person that mattered. We wed in a quiet ceremony by Lake Washington, and I invested every piece of myself into the life we were building. My dream had always been a family, children racing through a sunny backyard, laughter ringing in a house we could call ours. But month after month, the tests came back negative. Each one felt like another piece of me crumbling, another failure at the one thing I longed for most. Ryan would gather me close, voice soft in the dark. "It's all right, Sarah. We'll keep trying." And I believed him. I believed us. Until one gray Tuesday afternoon when belief split apart. I was scrolling our shared tablet, hunting down a lasagna recipe, when an email alert blinked across the screen. It was from Chloe to Ryan. Subject line, "Our plan." My blood iced over. I should have looked away, but my fingers disobeyed, opening it before I could stop them. And there it was, everything confessed. The affair. Months of stolen moments while I was blind. But what knocked the breath out of me was the closing paragraph. Chloe schemed to reveal her pregnancy at my birthday dinner to shatter me in front of everyone, forcing me into a neat, quiet divorce while they took it all. "She'll break," Chloe had written. She always does. The tablet slipped from my hands, striking the hardwood with a sharp crack, its shattered screen a reflection of my chest. I staggered into the bathroom, locked the door, and pressed my back against it as though it could bar the truth outside. My breaths came jagged, my mouth wide in a single soundless scream, the grief of an entire life dissolving. But then something changed. The pain didn't hollow me. It honed me. I picked up my phone, called Mia, my best friend since college. "It's happening," I told her, my voice steady even as the storm inside roared. "They're trying to destroy me." Her response was immediate, fear threading through her tone. "Sarah, where are you?" "Home," I said. "But I'm not surrendering. I'm going to bring their world down around them." The days that followed blurred into a pulse of fury and precision, as though I was walking a razor edge between collapse and vengeance. That very night, Mia came barreling through my front door, curls bouncing with every step, ready to go to war with me. "We need a strategy," she said, pacing across the living room, her paralegal instincts already snapping into action. I stayed on the couch, the cracked tablet still lying where it had fallen, and poured everything out. Chloe's betrayal, Ryan's lies, their twisted plan to humiliate me. Yet what kept tugging at me wasn't the betrayal itself, but a memory from a year earlier that refused to loosen its grip. Ryan and I had been trying for a baby for years. Each failed pregnancy attempt carved its own small wound into me. I begged him, time after time, to get tested so we could know if something medical was in the way. For months, he brushed it aside until one day he finally agreed. He went to Cascade Clinic alone. When he came back, his eyes were red. He held me as I wept. "It's not me, Sarah," he whispered, voice weighted with what I thought was grief we shared. "The doctor says I'm fine. It must be you." And I carried that verdict like a stone in my chest for a year. I believed I was the broken one, that my body had failed us. Each appointment, every test, every ultrasound that showed nothing, I turned the blame inward. And all the while, Ryan played the part of the devoted husband, touching my hair, promising we'd make it through. Now, realizing it was all a lie, the cruelty of that deception scorched me. "Mia," I said firmly, "I need the truth from Cascade Clinic. Ryan's results from last year." She frowned, pushing a loose curl behind her ear. "Sarah, that's protected by HIPAA. Not easy to reach." "I'm his wife," I shot back, my hands trembling. "There has to be a way." Mia's eyes narrowed. She gave a small nod. "Give me a few days. I'll find a way into that vault." 2 relentless weeks followed, calls, digging through Ryan's paperwork for old consent forms, and Mia bending rules with practiced finesse. Then, one evening, an email arrived. A PDF attachment waited like a loaded trap. My pulse hammered as I opened it and scrolled down. The report was clear. Patient exhibits 0 sperm motility. Diagnosis: azoospermia, sterile. The words slammed into me. Ryan hadn't just cheated on me. He let me believe I was the problem when he'd known all along he could never give me the family I dreamed of. My fingers trembled, not with grief, but with anger. If he could lie this deeply, what else had he kept hidden? That thought sank its claws into me, refusing to let go. I thought back to his story about the clinic, specialists, treatments, thousands of dollars spent to fix the issue. Doubt burning, I pulled up our bank statements from that month. Not 1 cent to Cascade Clinic. Instead, a glaring $20,000 cash withdrawal. No explanation. My stomach knotted hard. This wasn't just about an affair. Something far worse was lurking in the shadows. The next morning, I found myself in Bellevue, sitting across from Mr. Callahan, a private investigator whose office resembled a librarian's den, papers stacked everywhere. He had calm eyes, steady hands. "I don't care about the affair," I said, sliding the folder of bank records across his desk. "I know he's cheating. I need you to follow the money. See where that 20 grand went and what else he's hiding." He studied the papers, his gaze sharpening. "I'll get you answers, Miss Sarah." When I left his office, Seattle rain soaking through my coat, something inside me shifted. It wasn't only anger anymore. It was power. Chloe and Ryan thought they could break me. They'd forgotten who I was, the sister who had held everyone else together for years. Now I would be the one to dismantle them. 2 weeks later, Mr. Callahan delivered. His report landed in my inbox like a live grenade waiting to detonate. I sat alone at my kitchen table, the gray Seattle skyline just beyond the window, and opened the file. The trail of numbers told a story even darker than I had dared imagine. Ryan had created a dummy account, secretly channeling money to Chloe, covering her rent, her car, and the luxury handbag she paraded on Instagram. But the real blow landed when I uncovered a $200,000 transfer. The money had been siphoned from Ryan's company expense account, stolen from his firm, and sent to a title company to purchase a house in Tacoma. That house was now in my mother's name. My own mother, who had always favored Chloe over me, was tangled up in their plot. This wasn't just personal betrayal. It was a deliberate scheme, carefully staged to strip me of everything I had. I called me. My voice shook, not with grief, but with steely determination. They're not only destroying my marriage, I told them, they're trying to erase my life. Within an hour, Mia was at my apartment, laptop open, helping me connect all the pieces: the Tacoma house, the missing funds, Chloe's pregnancy. Together, we saw it clearly. Their plan was to keep me wrecked while we seized them. Of all of them, my mother's hand was the deepest. She had excused Chloe's selfishness, but rehearsing the words I would deliver at the glass table, practicing until my voice no longer faltered. "You've got this," she told me, her eyes blazing with pride. "They won't see it coming." I tightened my grip on the two documents that would serve as my weapons: Ryan's medical report proving his sterility and Callahan's financial audit exposing the theft. Both documents stayed tucked safely in my purse, my silent promise of justice. On the eve of the dinner, I stood on my balcony staring at Seattle's skyline, the lights shimmering against the water. The weight pressed on me: Chloe's jealousy, Ryan's deceit, my mother's betrayal. And yet, beneath that heaviness, there was something else: power. My whole life, I had been the one to repair, to steady, to endure. Now it was my turn to mend this, but not by crying or pleading, by outsmarting them, by proving unstoppable. With the city shining below me, I whispered to the night, "Tomorrow, they'll discover who I truly am." The glass haven gleamed with crystal chandeliers and the softness of jazz, a place where Seattle's elite raised their glasses to victories. My birthday dinner should have been a celebration, but as I sat at the grand mahogany table, surrounded by friends and family, I felt less like a guest of honor and more like a soldier preparing for battle. Chloe rose to her feet, one hand resting on her stomach, her voice dripping with feigned sweetness as she declared, "Ryan and I are starting a family." Ryan's hand settled possessively on her shoulder, his eyes sliding toward me, laced with that cultivated pity I had once been foolish enough to mistake for devotion. The table fell silent, every gaze turning toward me, waiting for me to collapse. But I didn't. I lifted my glass, took a slow sip of wine, and let the silence deepen, their smugness unraveling in the calm. I held steady. Then I stood, raising my glass high, my voice ringing clear beneath the chandelier's glow. "To family," I said, pausing deliberately, "and to the truth." I reached into my purse, withdrew the folded papers, and slid the first one, the medical report, across to Ryan. He froze, his fingers hesitant as he asked, his voice strained, "What is this?" "The truth," I said, loudly enough for all of them to hear. "From Cascade Clinic. Dated a year ago." The blood drained from his face. His hand froze mid-air above the paper. He understood instantly. Chloe's confident smirk flickered, her eyes darting nervously between the two of us. "The greatest betrayal wasn't that you slept with my sister, Ryan," I said, my voice sharp as ice, slicing across the room. "It was that you let me believe I was the reason we couldn't have children." Gasps broke out around the table. Chloe's hand slipped away from her stomach, her expression collapsing as the truth struck her. Ryan was infertile. Her pregnancy wasn't his. Her gaze snapped to him, then back to me, her earlier triumph drowned by shock. I turned toward my mother, who sat rigidly, her wine glass trembling between her fingers. "And Mom," my tone softened, but it carried a deadly edge. "That house in Tacoma truly is lovely. But when Ryan's firm wraps up their fraud inquiry into the missing $200,000, they'll be taking it." The room detonated into chaos. Ryan flung himself across the table, rage twisting his features. "You liar," he howled, yet two security guards were already restraining him, forcing him back as he fought and cursed my name. Chloe sat motionless, her hands shaking, tears cascading down her cheeks. My mother folded into her palms, sobbing. I felt no sympathy, only a fierce, blazing triumph. For years, I had been the quiet one, the dependable one. But tonight, I was the storm. I grabbed my purse. Mia was already beside me, her hand steady against my back. As we approached the thick oak doors, Chloe caught my arm, her voice breaking into a desperate whisper. "Sarah, please." I looked at her hand, then into her frantic eyes, and slowly pulled free. "Savior, please," I repeated flatly. "That's final. And call the real father. He deserves the truth." The heavy doors swung closed behind me, muting the chaos of the life I was walking away from. For the first time in years, I inhaled the Seattle night air. Cold, sharp, purifying. The months that followed blurred into attorneys, paperwork, and depositions, but they brought a clean severance. Ryan's firm, eager to conceal scandal, paid out generously. enough to let me start again. I settled into a modest apartment in Fremont, Seattle, with a balcony that overlooked the canal. I found a pottery studio nearby, a quiet refuge where wet clay slid beneath my palms, letting me mold something new from the rubble of my past. One afternoon, Mia was beside me, laughing as her clay collapsed again and again. She flicked a speck at me, chuckled. "Divorce final," she teased. "As of a few days ago," I answered, my smile unburdened, genuine. They didn't want their secrets paraded through court. My phone buzzed on the table. A local news alert. Former financial consultant Ryan Carter, sentenced to 5 years in prison for embezzlement. A grainy photo showed him in cuffs, hollow-eyed. I stared, feeling nothing. No happiness, no bitterness. Just stillness. His story was finished in my life, a closed book. I turned back to the wheel, clay cool and damp beneath my fingers. Now, where were we? I asked Mia, spinning the wheel again. On my balcony sits a single orchid I once rescued from a clearance rack. Its petals stripped, battered, almost lifeless, but its stubborn roots spoke to me. I've been reviving it, watering carefully, murmuring to it as though it could listen. This morning I noticed a bud. Tiny, fragile, but determined, stretching toward the light. For so long, I believed I was the broken one, the one who couldn't grow. But I wasn't broken. I had simply been planted in the wrong garden, surrounded by people who would rather watch me wither than bloom. To those who have walked beside me through every twist of this journey, thank you. You've stood with me through betrayal, fury, and the painstaking labor of rebuilding. If my story awakens something inside you, subscribe and stay with us. Every scar carries a tale of endurance, strength, and fresh beginnings. Keep shaping your own truth, and I'll see you at the wheel.